Thank you, Marcus, and good evening. I'm going to scare you a little bit tonight before dinner because this is an absolutely serious issue. We've lost 6.6 million people due to COVID so far. So if I divide this over 3 years, probably it's a couple of million. But for air pollution, every year we lose 7 million. Here, we've seen curfews and lockdown and total economic paralysis. Yet we don't see anything here. We don't see shutdowns. We don't see curfews. We don't even see a moment of silence. The sad story is we're polluting so much. You know, it's the chicken and egg. You pollute so much, then you call the filtration engineers, please come in and remove all the pollutants that I just sucked in from the outdoor air, not the fresh air. Of course, industries and individuals seek filtration to basically reduce the concentration to reach an acceptable limits. On the top of this, in the Arabian Peninsula, sandstorms represent another challenge. And I'm going to share a personal experience. After this sandstorm, this is my filter in my office after 24 hours facing this storm. So, of course, we need to regenerate it, because it's a sort of a strainer or a siever. So this would what I would have inhaled had I not have this poor filtration. Still, it's a poor filtration, but still, it did something. So what could I have inhaled? Let's take a look. Take your pick. What do you like? Would you like some pollen with some mold spores, lint, cement, fly ash? Our skin and human hair can also be airborne. But let's look at dust. Every time filtration is addressed, dust comes to mind, as if it's the only pollutant, but it's not. How about some pollen? What you're seeing here is, in the bottom, this is from the Arabian Peninsula. This is from the UK. Anybody here from the UK? Yeah? That you're up against? So how about the pollutants of concerns? Well, it's not only dust and it's not only PM, particulate matters, it can be NOx and SOx emissions, VOCs. We're polluting so much, again, and therefore our filtration has to be quite extensive. I am absolutely sure if I go to an air handling unit now and I say, I propose 6 stages of filtration because I'm going to need some for particulates and some for gaseous pollutants. It's not going to be an easy conversation. Okay, so when we disconnect pressure gauges, when we wash filters that are disposable, when we don't do any sort of maintenance, when our filtration stages are either insufficient or inappropriate, we have chronic filter failure. Take a close look. Who would want to be a human occupant of that product? I'm going to ask you a tough question towards the end of my presentation, but eventually things settle on the diffuser before that goes on the coil. For me, the pandemic was a complete failure. We failed. But why didn't we fail earlier? Because we kept the old school of facility management afloat. We're washing disposable filters and using them. We're overlooking maintenance tricks and shortcuts. Any filter upgrades will be thwarted by what? Costs too much. I'm sorry, before the pandemic, I'm sorry, I don't have any money now. It's not really a priority. After the pandemic, I have to catch up. I've lost so much money during the pandemic. When is this going to be a priority? We've lost 6.6 million people. But then we rely on washing coils and ducts. And even when we do that, even when we do that, we don't seem to be cleaning this very well. We're washing dust and water into the coil, not out of the coil. So, from my humble experience, it's impossible to even address air quality enhancements when these practices exist. You heard this a lot. Up to 90% of our times we spend indoors. Wow, really? If this is the case, why then hasn't air filtration gotten its permanent seat on the HVAC table? Why? For years, the facility management meeting basically focused around 1, energy efficiency, 2, thermal comfort, 3, cutting costs, maximizing revenues. Then the pandemic came about to reveal that these sort of thoughts have led to nothing but curfews. And when this filtration expert says air quality is important, air filtration is critical, it's only when we have trouble. It's only based on demand. So again, the facility manager is always his way or the highway. What I want to tell you, I've been in this field for 24 years. Air filtration is not only overlooked, ignored, and misunderstood, it is in certain cases dismissed. It's not even there. So I think it's a good chance we're meeting today to gather around the filtration and the air quality issue. Then there's so much hype about smart cities, which we had to abandon, which we couldn't even go to during the pandemic. Well, I've asked this question before, can smart cities be dusty or polluted? Well, who could claim today that we've done our filtration homework? Or who could argue that a 1-inch filter with a 2-inch gap would render our indoor environment fit to occupy? I would personally not keep my cat in this indoor space. So this is a sample of an air handling unit in the Middle East. First thing you can see, the limited access. Technician without any tools, conditions, mask, uniform, accessing the filter or the maintenance from the backside of the filters downstream, compared to somebody, for example, in the West. Paid well, fully uniform, tools and conditions. We can't go far if we don't invest on our maintenance teams. Again, we always seem to foster or promote maintaining on the downstream side, while I would always recommend that we do it on the front side. The backside is wet, prone to microorganism growth, and like what you see here, water accumulation as well as dust, and therefore, we are at much higher risk. Exhaust filtration has become quite critical, especially when the exhaust is in the vicinity of the air intake for air handling units. Technicians, how can I even claim that this technician is an AC technician? Just because I gave him safety shoes and a screwdriver? Well, when you do that, you end up with technicians that they're using the AHU as a storage for their lunch and their cleaning equipment. So we haven't been investing in them. Again, another representative image here. We spent so much money trying to get the best filters to capture these particles and have this best adhesion forces so they are retained within the lifetime of the filter. And then we get a blower to try to break these forces and regenerate a filter that is absolutely disposable. So the two questions here, why would I do that? And where else would I want this set of particles to settle? You want it on your coil, on your ducts, on your diffusers, and eventually our respiratory system. Whenever you want to make an air filtration selection, think of your client being this baby, the newborn. This is my daughter. When she was born, I went to the doctor and I said, "What have you done to take care of formaldehyde, VOCs, PM1, PM10?" And I said, "Oh, just whatever we have is available for everybody." But as I said, it's not just based on demand. When we have clients like this, we seem to elevate, raise the bar of air filtration and air quality. Or just keep loose on the fan coil unit or the air handling unit that you have and have an air cleaner. I'm going to share an experiment with you today. This is the amount of dust this baby would have inhaled in a week if you rely on 10 mm or 7 mm washable filters with an air cleaner. And when we measure the size of this compared to a newborn, it's almost the same size of the respiratory system. This sort of dust cake would appear under the microscope. And you can almost shave off the dust settlement on the filter of the air cleaner. When you do an elemental analysis, it turned out to be it's merely silica dust, which is a cancer sort of roadmap. So if I give you two choices, would you like to inhale this or filter it? I would filter it because we have the technology, but I would also go a step further. Why don't we just stop or reduce pollution? We're polluting so much. I was discussing with Marcus today that my footprint coming from Kuwait to Antalya today was so much, and I said, well, I can't walk here, so we have to fly. But nobody would want to inhale this, so we can filter it. But we need maintenance programs that makes a difference. So if I have this technician and he's mine and I give him a floppy disk and ask him to give me a grand plan for enhancing indoor air quality. If I give him a floppy disk and his first idea is the only idea, and he cannot really touch the facilities because they're old, the AHUs are aging, there is no space to enhance or upgrade the filters, lack of tools, conditions, no training or retraining. They're not paid well and they're not paid on time. Who would want to go out and enhance your indoor air quality? I'm sure you've discussed among yourselves and with everybody else certification. This is why I believe in certification, training and retraining to raise the bar and get things step forward. And when I say tools and conditions, I do not just mean a safety shoes and a screwdriver. That does not make them technicians. So I think it's a good chance tonight to promise ourselves to reimagine how we perceive air quality. Years ago, when the Air Quality Initiative and air filtration and all these great conversations were addressed, governments, consultants, decision makers decided to leave the conversation rather than lead it. And therefore, when the pandemic came about, we had to flee rather than fight through curfews and lockdown. The initiative I'm proposing today is challenge and change the status quo through envisioning a platform to act, targets to reach. Government should play a role by investing and growing in retrofits, facilitating change through the buildings, the new buildings we are building, and the ones we're remaking, to quantify and report so that we legally bind those who don't and those who do through a recognition program. But also, let's change the way we live, the way we commute, consume our resources, generate and use power. Eventually, everybody wants to aspire to this built environment, full of sensors, it talks to you. So let me ask you this final question. What would our world be like if our smart cities were filtered professionally through a responsive HVAC system that acted immediately to any changes in indoor air quality. Sounds utopian? No, it's not. We have what it takes. We got the technologies. So let's do it. Let me conclude by saying it's time to act now through a purpose that is consciously heard, equally shared, and hopefully professionally served. Thank you very much.